everyone, and welcome back to Grow Leafy. We are going to be talking about composting today. A very exciting topic that you don't want to miss. You want to be a part of this conversation because it's really important. We are going to be talking about the importance of composting and why you should start composting and the benefits of it and all the elements that are involved to start a compost and what you need. So if you've thought about it, here's the opportunity. If you do it already, here's the opportunity, because I'm sure there's gonna be something that you'll learn. And if you're an expert in it, then drop comments so that other people can learn some really great suggestions even from you. So there is something for everybody in this. So let's get started with today's video on composting. First, what is composting? Is it recycling? Is it taking what you have and putting it together and making what? Making soil? Well, what is it? Some of you may not even know what is composting, because when I started gardening, and it was just back in 2020, I had no idea what composting was. Heck, I didn't even know how to start a garden. I didn't know how to do anything. And composting was completely new for me. So I had to learn the terminology, like what is composting? What are the elements involved in it? But the process of composting in general is just basically the decomposition of organic materials that is broken down by various microorganisms, and they convert it and turn it into rich, healthy soil. And it is really great for your gardens. It's really great for our elements, the environment, for this earth, and it's really great for our communities, and it's really beneficial for insects, for your plants, and it's just so beneficial for just so many different reasons. Before we head over to the garden and the compost area, I'm going to share some statistics with you that might be disheartening. They were disheartening to me, but it is a reality that we need to face. But there's also a solution. There are some things that we can do to make a difference to this problem. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, stated that in 2019, 66.2 million tons of wasted food were generated in the food retail, food service, and residential sectors in the United States. Only 5% of that wasted food was composted. In the U.S., food is the single most common material sent to landfills, comprising 24.1% of municipal solid waste. Let's look at that closer. Food makes up 24.1% of landfill. Wood, 8.3%. I'm showing you some key elements. Yard trimming, 7.2%, and paperboard, 11.8%. These are materials that are actually needed for composting. So basically, when yard trimmings, wood, and paperboard are added to food, these organic materials comprise 51.4% of municipal solid waste in landfills. These are materials that can be composted, and that was disheartening to me to find that out, that this is something that we can do as gardeners and that we can do as individuals trying to take care of ourselves, is doing a lot more composting so that it reduces the amount of materials that's being sent to landfills. So in general, when you're throwing out trash or garbage, you're just dropping them in your trash cans. Okay, so it would go in here. And then in my city, we also have, where we would put the recycling things. So if we have grass clippings or tree trimmings or different things like that, or boxes, say we get a shipment from a store that comes in, we could, put that on here, whatever needs to be recycled. But when you compost, you now take a lot of the things that you normally would put in here or even in here, and you now would put it in a compost bin. So this is a compost bin that I purchased at a used store where I was able to get used items. And I also have Geobins, and I will put the Geobins link in the description. And I love the Geobins actually a lot more than I like this, because the Geobins actually sit on the ground, and the different worms and different other beneficial insects, they're able to easily crawl up or work their way into the compost so that they can help with the decomposition process, because they play a very vital part in composting. Like I mentioned, you have that, but when you are recycling and you are now taking some of those items, rather than throwing out your, let's say, the ends of a lettuce or the ends of a carrot or your food scraps and things like that, than just throwing it in here, then you're putting it in your compost instead. When you get a delivery of boxes because you've ordered a shipment of something, whatever it is, you would take that cardboard box, and peel it apart, rip it apart, throw that in your compost. If you're shredding paper for work or anything like that, take that shredded paper rather than putting it in here or any of these other bins and throw it in your compost. When you have clippings from trees or shrubs, leaves, when all those leaves fall in the fall, you don't have to put it in here. You could put it in your compost. It really has helped to break up clay soil when I've had issues where clay soil was just hardening really bad. It also helps when I am closing out my raised beds at the end of the season, and I can fill it with compost in the fall. Or in the springtime, if I'm starting out new raised beds like I did over here with strawberries, I added a mixture of compost in here. And so it really helped to feed these plants and to help with the soil structure and to break it up. And it's just beneficial for the microorganisms. And so it adds a lot to my garden area that I really am grateful for. I do not make enough compost, and so oftentimes I will have to, like this area right here, purchase bulk compost that I will pick up in my truck and bring it here and then scoop it out. And I had to do that over here in this whole area. As you can see, it's a very large area, but I needed a lot of compost. And I just don't make enough at home. But at least I was still able to get pretty good quality compost in my local area. But I'm still utilizing compost, which has been beneficial. I have 3 Geobin compost. This one was filled at one point, but in the spring I had to use it, so it got emptied out. So I still need to fill that up. This one I just filled up, almost filled. It's almost filled. It's filled up to here, but really I could fill it up to the top. And then this one was also used up, and it's down at the bottom. It's low. And this is what I'm going to show you today, what I had done and what I used, and show you some video clippings of it as well. This is where the Geobin was filled up today, and it could actually and should be filled up, I would say, to that rod. See that metal rod right at that point there? And I could fill it up some more. But I do love the Geobins. I feel like they've been very beneficial. As you can see, they're sitting on the ground. I have propped it up before on some pallets. You see pallets that are over there, but I'm no longer doing that just because it's so much better for the beneficial insects to work their way up from the ground, from the earth, into the Geobin in this way. And so I love it. It works really great. You can open it up and you can see those little 3 tied prongs, those little areas right there to open it up. If you need to flip it, take it out. But I usually just turn it while it's inside there, and then sometimes I might flip it, turn it, take it out, switch it to another bin or that one. Maybe I'll make a video on that at some point when it's time for me to turn it. The 4 basic elements that you need are brown materials, carbon, nitrogen, green materials, water, and oxygen. These are things that you most likely already have, or your neighbor or someone near in your community has it, so that you can make your compost. Here are some examples of carbon. It could be paper, cardboard, paper towels, shreddings of paper that you might put through the shredder, dried leaves, wood chips. Any of those are brown materials. Your green materials, food scraps, grass clippings, the green leaves, coffee grounds, chicken poop, anything like that, okay? And then you need the oxygen, which we have, but you need to make this aerobic, not anaerobic. Aerobic is where the oxygen is getting through the compost. So there are holes in the Geobin that helps with the air circulation of air. But as well, when you turn the compost, that's what's also helping to break it up and to allow for that air to seep in and to get through, so that it's not anaerobic. Also, you need water. Water is going to really help just to moisten it up, and the microorganisms are going to really love it, and they need that water. It can't just be sitting there dry, okay? It won't break down. But that water will help to activate it, okay? Just think water, activate it. So it's really important to add that water in there. Now you don't want to soak it so it's drenched and soggy and soppy. No, it's more like spongy, okay? Because you just don't want to wash it out like that. Now you need to balance it out. You don't want to have more nitrogen than more of the carbon. You need to have about a 30-to-1 ratio. For example, maybe 90%, more on the 90% to 10%. 90% brown, 10% nitrogen. Just really, I don't sit there and get like a measuring cup and measure my things out. I don't. I just know that I need to have, okay, more brown, less nitrogen, more brown, less nitrogen. So what I typically do is I layer, and look at these clippings that I'm showing you. I layer it like a lasagna. So I'll start off with brown material, then a smaller layer of nitrogen, then a larger brown material on top, then another layer of nitrogen. But I just try to put more brown than I would for the nitrogen. I don't measure it. I just do what I think is an estimate of a good ratio. And how do I know if I balanced it? Is because it won't smell. It won't stink. Now, when we freshly cut the grass and we put the grass clippings in, it was sitting right there next to my bin, I was smelling it. It was not yet in the bin. It was sitting there because I didn't have time to get to it to start putting it into the compost. And it started breaking down and it started getting hot. And so your compost, you also want your compost to get hot. And that nitrogen, like I would not take that fresh grass clipping and just put it in a big clump on my garden because it would probably burn it. Because when I tested that pile yesterday was up to 140 degrees. It was hot. Any hotter, it would even burn the beneficial microorganisms that's in there. I could tell that there was bacteria working in there. The color was starting to change and looking white. And so I can tell that things were starting to work in there. But I went ahead today, tested it out, and it was down to like 120. So I did add that in throughout the compost bin, throughout this Geobin, so that it was also included in that layer. But as you can see, the different things I was adding watermelon and some of my root vegetable skins that I threw in there. Also some leaves, lots of cardboard boxes, because I don't have a lot of brown materials right now because everything out here is green. But what I like to do, and if you're able to, save the leaves from the fall for the winter or throughout the season. Save a bag. I save a bag and I set it aside and I keep it dry. I use a mulcher. As it's sucked into the mulcher, it's broken down into pieces, because the more that you can break down your material, the quicker it will be broken down. And so I saved that and I added that also into the compost. So if you can save a batch of brown material so that when this season comes around, you have it and you're not looking for it, it's not as difficult. But in the fall, then you have so much brown material and you have less green. So you got to remember to save some of that green, grab some green, like as you're going, like food scraps here and there, grass clippings, different things that you can use. Give me a thumbs up, a like, a follow, subscribe if this video so far is helpful to you. What are the benefits? I mean, need I say more? Look at this garden. Food. This tomato is so sweet. Composting is so beneficial for your soil's health. The soil needs the structure. It needs the nutrients to go into the soil so that the plants can feed on it, and so the microorganisms can feed the plant and vice versa. And it's this symbiotic relationship where they just go back and forth, back and forth. It adds to biodiversity in the soil. It enriches the soil. It balances it out. It's very beneficial for the microorganisms. There's good bacteria, the fungi, the protozoas. They just go wild. They love it. It's so good. And then guess who gets the benefit from it? We do. This cucumber here, which I probably could harvest. Look at that. I mean, I've got so much produce. I've got sweet potatoes growing, cucumbers, tomatoes, Lots of greens, eggplants. I've got winter squash, just different things that are growing around here. That's one of the benefits. So benefits, sustainability, taking that autonomy, taking care of yourself. You get to be outside, taking care of your wellness, your health, your mental health. We deal with so many stressors in life, and being outside and taking care of our bodies, taking care of our families, taking care of this earth and this ground that we should be taking care of and cultivating, it helps to make us even feel better. You know, receiving this vitamin D from the sun and this fresh air and listening to the birds, and I'm not sure if you heard the cicadas, but listening to the nature, all of that is beneficial for us in our health, because health is wealth, you know. And so the other thing is, it's really great for our environment. The environment loves it. The environment needs it. It really helps with erosions, and if there's soil that's running off, and if you live in a place like I do, where you move into a place and you know they dug up all the good soil, took all that topsoil out and brought in clay soil, that's what happens in my area. And then it's so terrible to work with when it comes to growing your own food. Well, you're gonna have to put compost back into that, okay? Compost back into it to help enrich that soil again. And then we're also reducing our landfills and the garbage that's going over there by being able to use it, break it down, and put it back into the soil. We are reducing the amount of greenhouse gases and methane that's going into our air and into our environment, and we are reducing that kind of pollution that harms us in the long run. I don't want to inhale that. I want to be able to walk out and to breathe some nice fresh air. And I want my trees to soak up the best. I want my grass and everything, my plants, to soak up the best, and me. And the other benefit is that you will save money buying bags of compost. When you add up all those bags, it gets very costly, and especially if you want good quality. And when you grow your own, you know exactly what's going into your compost. You know that you're not putting in plastics and rubber and a bunch of other toxic things that would be not beneficial to your compost and to your microorganisms and to your insects and beneficial microbes. You know what's going in there. Now, I understand that not everybody can just grow it where they live. Sometimes you do have to buy a bag. And that happens. Been there, done that, have done that, and sometimes I have to do that. And then buying bulk. I started buying bulk. I like it. It's a little bit better. It's richer. It's better. I know where it's coming from. But still, it's not fully 100% up to my standards. But when you grow it yourself, you know exactly what you're putting into it. So that's another great benefit. I hope this video was helpful for you and that there is something that you were able to take away. Remember to take care of you, because you are important. But if you have not seen any of my old composting videos, and I have a lot of neat little videos that you can take a look at, then go right here, click on this video. It will take you to that playlist. And remember to grow, eat, and self-care. Bye.